Okay, it's recording, it's starting. Hey guys, what is up? It's your girl, Jasmine Kylene. I am a conscious media journalist and spiritual counselor, and I make videos where I have conversations about things and talk about things, and that's basically it. Anyway though, I felt inspired to make a video and I didn't really know what. Is this recording? Yes it is. I didn't know what to make a video on, and as I was creating this astro guide for the magazine Keeks, I figured I could make the digital version of the information that I shared in that video. So that is exactly what I'm doing today. So I'm well aware that usually when you are looking up your natal chart in any sort of astrological website, or when you are, Googling, what does it mean to have this and this? Sometimes the responses can be often pretty convoluted and pretty confusing. So I figured that I could just make one cohesive video where I provide you with the digestible way of understanding what it means to have a certain sign and a certain planet in a certain house, and what that looks like, and how it plays out. So in this video, I'm going to give you the basics of the houses, the signs, and the planets on the most basic level possible. Basic. Obviously, if you want a deeper dive into your chart, you can always book a one-on-one with me, or just do more Googling on your own. But this is kind of like if you're tiptoeing into the astro world or into your own personal chart, what you need to know to like fundamentally understand what's going on when you have a chart in front of you and you're like, literally what? So while I'm sure most of you guys know what the signs are and how their energies play out, I can just give you a quick overview on the 12 zodiac signs and their energies so that it makes sense when I talk about what having a certain planet in a certain sign in a certain house really means. So the first sign that we want to start off with is Aries. These are the babies of the zodiac, so they are the rebels without a cause. Basically, they are going to go hard for whatever they believe in. They're gonna go hard until they have argued with every single person who feels opposingly and draw blood, and then go back home and like put on a onesie and eat cereal out of a bowl. Moving on. Tauruses are the earth signs that embody sensuality. They're very, they're like naturally homebodies. They like to stay at home, nestle up, eat and nap, and enjoy comfort and enjoy the luxuries and enjoy what is tangible and good and yummy and fulfilling and nourishing to soul and to physical body. Geminis are, obviously they get a bad rep, I think we all know that, but typically I think they're embodying the fact that you can be dual and you can have a masculine and a feminine and a yin and a yang and an exterior and an interior. I think everything is defined by its two sides, and that's what a Gemini is. They're also very cerebral, and so they like to be stimulated by intellectuality and conversation and learning things through curiosity and exploration. A lot of really dope artists are Geminis, so that's a point for you guys, I don't know. Moving right on, Cancers are the maternal sign of the zodiac. They are water signs, and all water signs feel deeply, but I would say that Cancers probably feel the most deeply. But in that, they feel everything deeply. So they mourn deeply, and they feel sadness deeply, and they grieve deeply, but they also love deeply, and they laugh deeply, and they have really deep friendships and deep connections. They just like to feel things at full capacity, and love at full capacity, and care and nurture. I think they find a lot of their identity in caring and cultivating and fixing. Leos, I feel like we all, if there's like any sign that you do understand, it's gonna be a Leo. And Leos are the lives of the party. They are energy embodied. They like to show up and have it be known that they have arrived and be received as if they have arrived. So obviously that can be taken to like narcissistic context, but also they're just like big kids who like to have fun. So it's really just a matter of how evolved you are in your Leo energy. Virgos like to keep things nice and tidy. They are structured. They like to have things organized in a way that makes sense for them, and thus they are also perfectionists, which is awesome because they always become the masters of their craft. If they love something, they're going to make sure that they know and understand it to full capacity before they present it to the world. And that's why some of the greatest artists like Michael Jackson and Beyonce are Virgos, because they were not going to do anything that they didn't feel was perfected to full capacity. Libras are symbolized by the scales, so they're very much rooted in balance and justice and seeing both sides of things and being able to like mediate and moderate. Just don't ask them to like root identity in either side because they are nothing and everything all at once. They're also ruled by the planet of Venus, so they're very tied to sensuality and flirtation and what is beautiful. You'll know when you meet a Libra because they're always just like physically alluring. They're really tied to like beauty. Scorpios, on the other hand, are very like dark and hidden and occult. I think they find a lot of their own personal power in knowing that nobody will ever be able to fully understand them. There is a mystery about them that will always exist. Even if you've known this Scorpio all of your life, there's always going to be something that you don't know about them because they like the occult. They like the hidden and the death and the rebirth of things. And they also are very sexual. Take that for what you will. You know, they're the complete opposite signs of Taurus. So while Taurus is very sensual, and a Scorpio is very sexual, which is, you know, those are different things. Sagittariuses are the explorers. They are abundant in their curiosity. They like to see and learn and experience everything. It's hard to tie them into one path or one set of interests. They're very expansive and explorative and very funny and lively. They're like, I would say they're my favorite signs out of the zodiac. I'm not a Sagittarius, but I'm a Sag rising, and so I think I just like want to be a Sagittarius, and that's why I admire them so much. But they're worth admiring. They're very abundant and their energy is big. However, if you want somebody who's going to get shit done, you're definitely going to want to get a Capricorn. Capricorns can get very trapped in their own minds because I think out of all the signs, they tend to be the hardest on themselves, but that's because they're ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is discipline and getting shit done and like taking or not taking no for an answer. So Capricorns are very numerical, very logistical, but they have a very like strong foundational energy. You're gonna want to come back home to a Capricorn, I would say. Aquariuses, which is my sun sign, can't really be defined by anything because I think it's impossible to find any two Aquariuses that are alike. They're very unique in their expression and therefore are very futuristic. They pour their love into humanity and to the social constructs, not necessarily one like single person or cause. They like things that are weird and that are alien and different and foreign and don't allow themselves to be defined by anything that they don't really believe in. Pisces are the last signs of the zodiac, so they sort of like tie everything together as far as, you know, just like the wisdom that you cultivate when you go through all 12 zodiac energies. They are dreamy and they experience life through stimulation and colors and sensation and feeling. They live life as if it was a fairy tale, and while that can be off-putting to some people who like to see like structure and understanding in things, I think it's also really inspiring. I think life is magical once you decide that it is, and Pisces don't see any problem with seeing everything as like bloomy as it possibly could be. Bloomy, is that a word? It should be. So now that we understand the signs, let's talk a little bit about the planets. I'm going to focus as much as I can on the inner planets because those are the ones that have the most influence on us on a personal level, but I will mention the ones that are bigger and outer, like Saturn and Jupiter, even though they have more of like a collective influence, if that makes sense. So the first planet that I want to obviously talk about is the sun. So the sun is the sun. So your sun sign, which is essentially the sign that you identify with, right? If you walk into a room and you say, I am a Taurus, or I am a Capricorn, or I am an Aquarius, you're referring to your sun sign. So your sun sign is just your immediate identity. It is who you wear on your sleeve. It is the foundation of self. It's who you are when you are running on autopilot mode, and it's who you default to, you know? So if you say, I am a Taurus, you're somebody who likes to take naps and snacks. If you are a Cancer, you are somebody who feels deeply and cries at a lot of movies or songs that you listen to that touch you deeply. While the rest of your chart can, you know, sort of paint the picture a bit deeper or add some sprinkles or take away some things, your sun is kind of like, it's just who you are. Your moon, on the other hand, is who you are inwardly, right? If your sun is your exterior expression, your moon is your interior expression. So this has to do with how your emotions run, how you think inwardly, right? Your inner dialogue. And conversely, it's the home for like the emotions that need the most tending to. It's like where your inner child lives. It's your moon. It's like the other side of who you are at the forefront. It's also, your moon sign is also the way that you act when you are around people that you don't feel like you need to be performative, right? I think it's easy for us to sort of have like our default identity that we identify with, but when we can take the mask off a bit, and this is different than our rising sign, which I'll get into, but like the moon is just kind of like, I can slouch a little bit and kind of like just be right now. Your Mercury is the way in which you communicate and the way in which you express yourself, not only creatively, but also just like relationally, you know, the way that you express yourself in conversation, in projects, in your work environments, in your friendships, and even in your relationship. You know, if you have an Aries Mercury, then you're probably very direct and argumentative, and you like to challenge anybody that says anything ever, which can be exhausting. And if you are a Pisces Mercury, then you may be more poetic in nature, and you may be more inclined to speak in prose, which can also be frustrating for people, and that's fine. Your Venus sign is how you are in relationships. It's where your divine feminine lives, so it's how you show up in the ways in which you nurture, like I said, your relationships platonically, romantically, familially, communally, and even the relationship with self. If you are a Pisces Venus, you can have sort of like a fairy tale outlook on what relationships are meant to be like, and if you are a Capricorn Venus, you can want to understand like the structure and how you can squeeze productivity out of said relationship. And balancing out our divine feminine is our divine masculine. So this is the planet that's going to rule how we show up in our masculine energy, which is our drive, our work drive, our sex drive, the ways in which we express what we want to do on a masculine level. So how we embark on our creative endeavors, or how we show up in our work environments, or even how we are in bed, how we are sexually. So if you are a Virgo Venus, you are very organized with the way in which you navigate your creative endeavors or your work ethic. If you are an Aquarius Mars, which is me, it can be kind of hard for you to pick a single lane and stick to it because you're so airy and all over the place that you just don't even know what your identity is. But it's fine because I am in therapy. And though it's not a planet, your rising sign is very important as well. And this is what they say is your mask, right? Your ascendant is the way in which you show up, or rather the identity that you choose to embody when you show up in social or outward situations, right? So I'm a Sagittarius rising, and you can find that when I am in public spaces or in group settings, I tend to be much more like expressive and flamboyant in the way that I connect with people and the questions that I ask, when actuality I am more like reserved and what's the word? I'm more introverted than I think one would assume if they meet me in an outward setting. And that's not to say that when we are acting in our rising signs that we are acting with like fake identity or that we're faking anything. This is rather like, not role, but like the coat that we put on when we step outside, right? We all have ways in which we shift. We all have ways in which we shift depending on what our environment is. And so this is kind of like the default way in which you shift into how you feel you would make the most sense in the world's expression. I said that I was gonna make this like digestible, and then I feel like I'm also still speaking like in convoluted terms. Let me know if I'm making sense, please. And so just to quickly go over the outer planets, Jupiter is a planet of expansion and abundance. It's a really, really happy and healthy energy. You know, whenever there's a big Jupiter transit happening, you can expect to have a lot of like good luck and abundance and charm, and even expansion of mind, expansion of philosophy, of higher knowledge and higher knowing. It's ruled by, or rather it rules the sign of Sagittarius, which is the sign that likes to be curious and learn as much as possible. In cambio, Saturn is kind of like the polar opposite energy. It is a planet that rules discipline and like karmic debt and getting your shit together and learning lessons in the physical expression of it, like actually being face to face with what it means to meet your own shit and meet the ways in which you've been holding yourself back. So when there is any tough Saturn transits happening, especially, you know, in your personal chart, if you're experiencing a Saturn return, which happens every like 27 to 30 years, you're gonna be learning a lot of tough lessons, but it's all about the way in which you respond and show up to it and show up for yourself. And Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius, so it's like the futuristic one. It's all about breaking down what is patriarchal and capitalistic and rooting back into like futuristic and like communal social belief. It rules technology, it rules rebellion, it rules challenging structures and breaking them down so that you can rebuild them in a way in which like the higher good can be served. So it's awesome. It's a really good planet. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And of course we have Pluto, which a lot of people have like dogged on, right? Like it's not a planet, it is totally a planet. It rules death and rebirth and sexual identity and what is hidden in occult. And in that it rules our shadows and of course our shadow work, which is important and integral to our sense of identity and the healing of self. So it's important that we integrate our shadows into our identity instead of like trying to heal through them and get rid of them. And the planet of Pluto is the one you want to work with when you are working on shadow work. And lastly, we can go over the houses. So if the planets and the signs in which our planets are in lead us to understand a certain energy, then the houses explain how this energy is expressed, right? So for example, if you have a Cancer moon in your 3rd house, then you express this like nurturing and emotional sense of feeling in 3rd house themes, which is community. So putting it all together, somebody who has their Cancer moon in their 3rd house is somebody who finds a lot of emotional value and pouring nurturing into their roles in community, in small local communities. So in your friend groups and your work groups, you find that it's important to counsel your friends or show up for your friends emotionally. And if you have a Leo moon and that's found in your 10th house, then you are somebody who is very like expressive and creative and likes to you know, put all of that vibrant emotion into drama and creativity. So the sign on the cusp of your 1st house, which is like the starting edge of your 1st house, is your ascendant sign. And this is because the 1st house is basically how we are on a physical and immediate level. You know, it is how we show up, it is how we physically express ourselves, energetically, emotionally, mentally. It is just kind of like immediate. It's an immediate energy, right? So if you have your Venus in your 1st house, then your femininity is something that is met very quickly. If you have Jupiter in your 1st house, you have a very charming and alluring energy and can also fluctuate in weight a lot, right? Because Jupiter is very like expansive and can like overindulge at times. Conversely, if you were somebody with Pluto in the 1st house, there may be something that is intense about you, or maybe you are constantly rebirthing your identity. You're somebody who cannot be held by like one specific way of seeming. And yeah, those are just some examples. But your 2nd house is your relationship to what is financial, what is tangible, what is physical, what can be measured, felt, experienced through sensation, whether that's taste, smell, or sight. It is, yeah, it's just our relationship to what is in the 3D, what is earthly. So if you have any major planets in your 2nd house, then you may be pouring a bit of your identity into the physical things that you own, or you are somebody who wants to be represented by the physical things that you own. It would be pretty hard for anybody who has like a sun or honestly just like any major planet in their 2nd house, because you pour a lot of identity into the things that you have. So it would be hard for you to have like a minimalistic lifestyle or live like a minimalist. Not because you are greedy, but because you like to identify yourself with all the things that you have. Your 3rd house rules how you show up in your intimate and immediate communities, right? Like your neighborhoods, your local gatherings, any like collectives that you're part of. It also rules your communication, right? So not only how you communicate externally, but also how you communicate with yourself, how you communicate like in your thoughts and talking, but also just like talking devices. It's just how you put your word out there that lies within your 3rd house. Your 4th house is ruled by the sign of Cancer, and when you look at the zodiac wheel, it's like the bottom part of it. So it rules our foundation, our upbringing, our childhood, our relationship to our mothers, and our relationships in the ways in which we show up in our maternal way, right? So how we give TLC, how we receive TLC, how we received TLC in our upbringing. So if there's any inner child healing or wounds or like maternal wounds that you need to heal, that will lie within your 4th house. Your 5th house is ruled by Leo, so that is where the drama exists, and that is like creativity and fun and expression and play. It's where like the healed inner child already lives, and that is energy that you embody. For example, if you have your Venus in your 5th house and you're somebody who wants to have a lot of fun in your relationships, you want to express yourself in your relationship, you're probably very expressive in your fashion, right? Because it's like how you wear your femininity. It's a really fun house and a very lighthearted house, I would say. The 6th house is ruled by Virgo, so it's where things are taken much more seriously. This is where like diet and routine and healthy living and tidy environments lives. It's having a to-do list and abiding by that to-do list, and of course taking care of your health on like a mental but mainly like physical level. It also just rules like your overall like responsibility and cleanliness of self. Your 7th house is where your relationship to externals lies. So this is where relationships regarding not even just like platonic or romantic relationships, but also like work relationships, contracts, marriage contracts, all of that lives within your 7th house, as well as, I believe, our relationship to like other people's money, unless that's a different one. Let me verify that before I say lies. I'm totally saying a lie. That's the 8th house. Sorry. See, I'm human and I'm fallible. So the 7th house is mainly just like contracts and work contracts, marriage contracts, and just relationships to things that are external or people that are external. Your 8th house does rule your relationship with other people's money, while the 2nd house can be like money that you make and things that you own. 8th house is more so like in relation to investments or ways in which people are paying you, that kind of stuff. But the 8th house, it rules mystery, it rules death, it rules rebirth. It's like what's hidden and occult and kind of like the shadow work that we need to do. The 9th house is where we find our ties in our relation to long distance traveling, right? Seeing the world and seeing as much of the world as we possibly can and experiencing the world as deeply as we possibly can, exploring. It also is our curiosity for higher learning, philosophy, religion, things that are different and foreign, and being able to like ingest that information and grow through it. You know, if you have any major planets in the 9th house, I personally have my moon in my 9th house, so I find a lot of identity in what is spiritual and what is different and what is not written by the books. And I pour a lot of my emotional health in like learning and relating to a lot of these like very just like different themes. Speaking is so hard. The 10th house is completely opposite of your 4th house. So while the 4th house is the foundation, the 10th house, being the highest point in the zodiac wheel, is kind of how we are on an external platform. So it's where we show up on whatever platforms we have and whatever podiums we have. It's achievements, it's public speaking, it's all of that, and it's the house that we typically look at when we want guidance on where we want our careers to go or what we should be doing as far as our career paths is concerned, because it is achievement and award and recognition and sort of like leadership and discipline. So you're going to want to look at the 10th house, what planets you have in the 10th house, what it's ruled by. And like I said, if you ever want to do a one-on-one reading and learn a little bit about your specific 10th house and what that looks like for you, if this video didn't give you enough information, then you totally can. And the last 2 houses, the 11th house is ruled by Aquarius. So this is where what is futuristic and never been done before and individuality and originality stands. This is also where like social justice and rebellion and your relationship with those themes lies. So if you have any major planets in there, then that is what it is ruled by. And lastly, the 12th house rules endings, right? It's the last house. So this is where like the ending of a project, the ending of our physical embodiment on earth, and all of that intense but important stuff lies, as well as the subconscious mind and what is hidden and underneath surfaces. And my SD card just like totally filled up, so I'm not even gonna sweat it. I'm just gonna film this from my phone and take advantage of the fact that I'm on my phone to show you guys the beautiful sunset that's happening outside. I'm gonna go look at it, but those are the 12 houses, the 12 zodiac signs, the main planets that you want to look at when you're looking at your chart, and just the basics of understanding it when you go on like Cafe Astrology or like whatever medium that you use, and you're like, literally, what does this say? That is how you can understand them. And yeah, that was my basic astro guide. So if you have any questions, if you want any one-on-ones or anything of the sort, visit my website at loyaluna.tv or follow me on Instagram at JasmineKylene, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I'm gonna go soak in this goodness. Love you, bye!